a lot of the perimenopausal symptoms had already started happening to me. I wasn't recognizing them as perimenopause. I thought it was just my health was just declining and I was going crazy. And I was very stressed, right? So, walking up the stairs was stressful for me. Okay. I had to carry an extra 80 pounds up the stairs. Just walking was stressful on my body. I mean, it's the truth, you know? And so the perimenopausal symptoms I was having, I completely ignored them. I didn't even cross my mind that I'd be having perimenopausal symptoms at 37.
Welcome to the Precision Total Health Podcast, your go-to resource for high-value, no-fluff episodes that give you the tools to optimize your health and perform at your best as a mission-driven female leader. I'm Lori Aikman, former college athlete, seasoned nurse practitioner, and founder of Precision Total Health, a concierge functional medicine practice. Let's get started.
All right. Today on the podcast, I'm so excited to bring you the self-proclaimed hot mom bod rainmaker, Terry Tateossian. And welcome to the podcast today. We were just talking about, we're just going to dive right in. Let's talk about having a hot mom bod, right?
Totally. Thank you, Lori. It's an absolute pleasure. And I think we're going to have a really good time on this podcast. So I'm really looking forward to chatting. I really appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we were chatting before. You have a background in media and tech, but now, you're more working in coaching in the health and wellness industry. How did that transition happen? How did you go from, working in tech and media to doing what you do now?
Well, let me tell you. So if there's anybody out there that's ever worked in tech and media, they will know exactly what I'm talking about. It's rough, guys. It's really, it's exhausting. Okay. And when you work with a lot of big brands, they have very high demands. It's a very high pressure type of career. I started a company in my 20s that kind of evolved into a larger startup that did this kind of work and eventually grew to about 40 employees, plus another 40 contractors, plus another 40 consultants, and so on, with offices all over the United States. And so basically what I'm getting at is that I worked 24/7, and I also, in the middle of all that, had children. And when I tell you it was 24/7, it was literally 24/7. And I ended up gaining a lot of weight. After both of my pregnancies, I gained a ton of weight. I could not get it off. And then perimenopause slapped me in the face very, very early. So it started actually in my, I think the first symptoms now that I look back, it was about 37.
Okay.
I would say, and I had no clue because I was so busy running in the hamster wheel, working 24/7. I was like, yeah, hot flashes. No, girl, you're just in heat, okay? Sweats in the night. No. You're just stressed about work, so I ignored all of that.
Yeah.
And I got to a point where I ended up in the hospital twice. I thought I was having a heart condition. It was terrible chest pains. I was pre-diabetic. I was 210 pounds at 5'3".
Wow.
It was bad. So I had pretty much a breakdown, right? I was burned out. And one day I just said, I'm done. I'm not doing this whole thing anymore. I need to regroup. I need to figure out what the heck is going on with me. Why can't I lose this weight? Why is my health declining so rapidly at a pretty early age? I mean, I was late 30s.
Right.
There should have been absolutely no reason why I need to be hospitalized and going to cardiologists and being pre-diabetic and having to be put on medications and all kinds of things like that at that age. So that's essentially what happened.
What a story. But I've heard that. I've had some of my patients that have come to, work with me that they've had similar experiences. I mean, literally, ending up, I think of one patient in particular, ended up in the ER thinking she was having a heart attack, right? Because she couldn't breathe and was having palpitations and going, what is going on? And it's crazy. How much do you see that in the women that you work with, where they've maybe, I don't mean this in a judgmental way, but just that's like, I think that's our culture, is like we don't pay attention to ourselves. We don't put, we're like, it's like work, go, do the thing, and we're so disconnected to ourselves. Would you say, do you see that in the women that you work with?
100%. So the women that I work with, I'm actually really lucky, really blessed, because the women that find me already have an awareness that this is not the path they want to take. Right? So I'm like a beacon out there screaming as loud as I can, don't do what I did. Take control of it a lot earlier and be proactive about your health and your needs and your emotional well-being, your physical well-being, and don't wait until you get to this place, because it's very hard to climb your way out of there. But it's much easier to proactively take action a little bit every day to keep yourself in a great state of being all around. And so the women that I work with are a lot more conscious and don't necessarily, they're not as behind as I was when I started.
Sure.
But as a whole in society, do I see that? Absolutely. Women and men as well. I mean, I can't even just say women. I think both men and women
Right.
are extremely overwhelmed with their work, extremely overwhelmed with expectations and our general lifestyles and, everything
Yeah.
we got to do, that it's, taking care of our health is the last priority in the day.
Sure. And it's so crazy because literally we have one body, right? This is the only body we get. And there's like some things that aren't reversible when we, or maybe they are reversible, but it takes a lot of work. It's just crazy that we're kind of just programmed to just go like that. And I mean, that's just the expectation, right? Kind of culturally. It's kind of, I feel like so many things that I'm going, oh, I need to lean into this, are so counter cultural, right? Of just
Exactly.
taking time. Take time for yourself. Do this for yourself. I talked to a patient this morning even, and she's like, I just feel like I always have stuff to do and I feel guilty if I take time for myself. And I'm like, girl, you need to. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, it's our culture. Right.
Right. Yeah. So what did that transition then look like after you had, like you said, hitting kind of bottom, hitting your rock bottom? Where did things go from there?
So I approached a holistic doctor, not coach,
Mm.
a holistic doctor, an MD, and because I couldn't find answers in the traditional medical industrial farm. I went to all the doctors and no one had an answer for me. It was literally, it's in your head. You're making this up. There's nothing wrong with you. Take a Xanax. And no one actually told me or, slapped me on the head and said, hey, it's your lifestyle. You need to change. You need to lose weight. You need to knock the shit out, right? And so I went to a holistic doctor, and it was the first time in my entire life that someone asked me questions about my medical history, my mother's medical history, my grandmother's medical history, generationally going back a few generations, to ask about our medical history and our general history, our lifestyle. And I think this first initial meeting was about 3 hours long. And I had never had anybody ask me such detailed, in-depth questions. And at the end of it, her reaction was, wow, no wonder you're having all of these things happening to you. There's a lot to unpack emotionally, and a lot that happens in our lives that we apparently inherit while we're in vitro in our grandmothers. Because what she explained to me that I thought was fascinating is that I existed in my grandmother when she was pregnant with my mother. How
Right?
crazy is that? And a lot of stuff like that. And we unpacked quite a bit of it. And she said, exactly what you just said earlier, that you said to your patient. She said, girl, you got to lose weight. You got to find a way to manage your lifestyle. There's a lot of different things you can do to help yourself. And that's what I started. That's when I started on the path to figuring out, well, okay, first things first, how do I lose weight? What do I need to do? And can I just do this the right way rather than all the other ways I had tried in the past, right? So there were 30, 40 diets in my history that I tried. They all worked for a little bit because I starved myself and did 3 hours of cardio a day. And then they failed because then I would double gain the weight back because then I went back to normal life, right? And so this time I said, this time I'm going to do it right. So I found a coach at that time that helped me understand nutrition, helped me understand how to eat properly to be in a caloric deficit, but not in a nutrient deficit, right? There's a big difference because when the way that we are taught or the way that our culture promotes diets is that they not only put us in a caloric deficit where we're eating less calories than we are expending, but we're in a massive nutritional deficit, meaning we're not getting the electrolytes that we need, the vitamins, all of the minerals, all of those things that are in good food. And when we get off the diet, we end up being so malnourished that we double eat and end up gaining a lot more weight. So I did not know that back then.
Yeah.
So I learned all that as a complete beginner. I learned how to lift weights. And I always tell this story all the time. The first time that my coach gave me my program, it had abbreviations for certain exercises. And it had an abbreviation for dumbbell. It says it's a DB. And so I'm like, picture, I'm a complete newbie beginner. I did not know my hand from my foot. Okay. That's where I was at. And I'm looking at this program and it says DB lateral raise. And I'm like, DB. I know like a bad word that you can abbreviate as a DB. I know a couple of other things, but I have no idea what this is. And that's how much of a beginner I was.
Well, and thankfully you found somebody that could help educate you there. I mean, I think that is, we don't know what we don't know, right? When it comes to health and wellness stuff, I think there's so much misinformation out there too. You just need to cut your calories, just cut calories. I remember working in a weight loss clinic in the past, and this woman, I want to say she might've been in her 70s. I mean, and this was a couple years ago. And I remember her saying, this was what confused her. She's like, I'm here to lose weight, but you're telling me I need to eat more food. I don't understand. Right? Just some of these misconceptions that we have a belief that okay, losing weight, starving myself, right? And those real understanding, true understanding about nutrition and how your body works and metabolism and stuff like that. We're not taught any of that. I think even, I'm sure we'll get into hormones some too, but we should have a class in school, in high school about this is how your body works, right? This is how your hormones work. I mean, just those are important things we should be learning about, as just part of being a human.
I totally agree. And I watch my, now she's almost 18, but I watch my daughter grow up in this culture with me just, hovering around. And I started noticing that she got into the same behavior pattern as well. So, girls nowadays have a lot of pressure, the body images, a lot of dysmorphia because of all these filters on social media and all the editing that people do with Photoshop and all these things, right? So the expectations of what a real body looks like are very dysfunctional.
Right.
And so I started noticing, her idea of eating healthy was to eat 2 little meals a day that were completely void of nutrition. And I started little by little pulling her along the way as well and saying, hey, you actually need to eat this much protein if you're going to play a 3-hour soccer match. You can't starve yourself because your body's not going to work.
Yeah. And is your daughter in a better place, I hope?
Oh yeah, no, she now understands. I even taught her how to track macros. She has an app. She understands. She can look up the nutritional value of certain foods and make sure she's eating enough food, right?
Right.
Because a lot of times with girls, they're, if they're very athletic or they play competitive sports, the coaches, even themselves on the field, say like a lot of girls are showing up not having eaten for the day, and then they feel sick in the middle of the match. And
Yeah.
yeah, when that started happening, we started talking about, you need to eat enough food, you need to eat enough protein, enough vegetables, the right types of fats at the right time throughout the day.
Right.
So when you walk on the field, your body has fuel, which is what food is. It's
Mhm.
fuel to keep you moving. And the more intense you're moving and your activity is, the more dense and the more high level your nutrition needs to be. If you think about professional athletes, it's all about the nutrition, and they're very regimented and disciplined on, what type of food they eat and when they eat it. And that's not
Yeah.
taught anywhere, right? That's trial and error, or you have a coach that helps you.
I'm curious, just something you mentioned is just your like you called it living in harmony with your body and soul, and then like your inner path. How was that part of your journey and just that transformation? Do you feel like was there like a coming back to yourself kind of?
That's what I call it. I call it reclaiming myself back. Because a lot of time, and the way that this actually came to me was as I was going through this process. There's a lot of stuff on social media about new you, new this, new that. You have to reinvent yourself and all these things. And that did not feel right to me. I felt
Mhm.
like I didn't need to be a new me. I needed to get the old me back because I
Right.
lost her somewhere along the way in this chaos of a life that we're conditioned to live. And I feel like the true me, the one that was there in the beginning, somehow got buried under
Mhm.
all this stuff, life,
Right.
work, this, that, obligations, houses, cars, this, and none of those things really matter when you think about it at the end, if we're going to sacrifice our health. And so I wanted to go back to who I was, to get my soul back.
And how was that something that like a coach helped you through or was that just kind of your own rediscovery or
It was the process of going through these
Mhm.
changes
Mhm.
where, and you're just kind of scrolling on Instagram or, whatever it is. And while you're on a journey like this, you have to do a lot of mindset work,
Right.
because all of your blind spots get exposed when you are trying to achieve something almost impossible in your own mind. And so a lot of um, bugs in the software, in the operating system of our brain, they start to be exposed. And if you want to get past that particular level of in your journey, because it's almost like a video game, this journey has different levels, it's got different obstacles, you got to jump around all these different things, and boogeymen, I call them, because they'll pop up out of nowhere and try to sabotage you. And if you want to get past all these levels, you have to stop and think and say, hey, where did this come from? Why is this thought repetitively popping up in my head? Why is it
Right.
trying to keep me from XYZ? How can I get around it? How can I either make it go away or get around it or create a different pathway in the brain? Right? How can I go to the next level?
Mhm.
And it's unavoidable, right? It's
Right.
unavoidable when you're in the middle of a transformation journey or a health journey or weight loss journey, any kind of journey, career, professional journey, any kind of change in your life. You will experience these kinds of obstacles, setbacks, boogeymen, negative thoughts, whatever it is, and you have to work on your mindset. And so I was doing all that just naturally and on purpose. At the same time, I was reading a lot of books, and I came to the realization that I don't want to be a new person. I need me back. I need the person that I actually am deep down to be the one driving this bus, right? I don't want all the other thoughts and self-sabotaging behaviors to hijack who I am and drive me to this place I don't want to go, right? I need me back. I need my higher self to take over.
That's so true. It's the programming, right? Even that's leading, really driving us, and maybe we haven't even considered. And like I worked with a coach at one point that did a lot of that stuff of like really sitting down and thinking, reflecting and like coming back to yourself and like, what is it that I really want or believe, or just really examining that stuff. Because I think for so many of us, we're taught to be good kids and, follow the rules and stay in line and achieve and da 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 da. And like you've said, we even lose touch with us and what that really looks like. So I feel like your life probably looks really different now than it did when you started this journey.
I feel completely different.
Right?
I wake up with a big smile on my face and I'm like, let's fucking go. Let's go. I just go, right? Excuse my cursing.
No, you're good.
But before, that was not me. I wouldn't even, I didn't want to wake up.
Yeah.
So it was like that kind of thing. Energetically, I feel healthy in my energy, what I bring to my life, to my day. I feel great physically, despite being completely fully menopausal at the age of 48. It's gone. My periods ghosted me. I hope I never see it again. And I feel great mentally and emotionally as well, because for the first time in my life, I feel like I'm living my true purpose and my true passion. And there's really there's no explanation for how everything changes when you begin to be in alignment with who you are, rather than being somebody else or somebody new or somebody tells you to be, or all those things, right? When you truly live in full alignment with who you are, what you're here for, it just flows completely naturally. So all resistance to doing those things that most people have resistance to doing, right? So eating a certain way and taking care of yourself, going to the gym, lifting weights, being in harmony with your environment, being in harmony with your relationships. And if you're not, then getting rid of them, right? So there's a lot of resistance around these types of changes for most people. When you're living in alignment, you don't have any resistance. You're just existing with no resistance.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, how much how much more can you live full out when you're living without resistance, right? So
Exactly.
I'm curious just how that menopausal journey was for you. Going through menopause, right? Average age is 51. So like, as you said, going through menopause early, I think you had mentioned some stuff about some reverse aging. I'd love to hear a little bit of your take on that.
Yeah. So for everybody listening, if you guys want to see where I started, you can see my transformations photos on my Instagram. And my Instagram is how.good.can.it get. So there's dots between every word. How good can it get? And I think one of the pinned posts is where I started at 37. I was 210 pounds. I could barely fit into an extra large dress. I believe at that time I was still wearing my maternity clothes, and I had my second baby at 35. So 2 years later, I'm still wearing maternity clothes because I did not fit into anything else, and I refused to buy new clothes that were that large, right? And so when you look at that, a lot of the perimenopausal symptoms had already started happening to me. But because I was so obese, I wasn't recognizing them as perimenopause. I thought it was just my health was just declining and I was going crazy. And I was very stressed, right? So, I mean, walking up the stairs was stressful for me. Okay. I had to carry an extra 80 pounds up the stairs. Just walking was stressful on my body. I mean, it's the truth, you know?
Right.
And so the perimenopausal symptoms I was having, I completely ignored them. I didn't even cross my mind that I'd be having perimenopausal symptoms at 37. So that was generally just complete ignorance. I was completely ignorant.
Well, I think I'm glad there's more conversation about perimenopause now. I feel like the women that at least I encounter in my practice, there's this awareness. Sometimes they're like, I don't know, is it perimenopause? Because there's more talk about it, right? It's on social, there's all this stuff, but I think we're still confused. Like, is it perimenopause? Like I think there's still some misinformation out there about that. But yeah, but I mean, if there's other things confounding your health, yeah, how do you know? I pulled up your I'm almost wish I could screen share it on here. I pulled up your Instagram and I'm looking at like it has a before and after, and then it shows some clips from like in the gym. It looks like you're doing a deadlift, and that's awesome. Amazing. So, I mean, I'm assuming you like enjoy working out at this point.
I cannot even imagine not having found weightlifting.
Right.
Because and here's the kicker. I literally had never picked up a weight in my life when I started.
Mm-hmm.
I refused to go to a gym.
Right.
I thought it was ridiculous. I didn't want to look like a man. That was another one. Okay. Oh,
Yes.
I can't
I
work
hear that
out.
a lot.
I'm going to look like a man. I don't want to look like a man. I'm going to
Right.
get too bulky and like all of this stuff. Right. And so I stayed away from weightlifting my entire life, my whole life, until I had no choice. And I had to do it.
Right.
And there was a lot of resistance around that. I mean, I battled with my coach for a good while, maybe about a year. I was a very, very I was a terrible client. I resisted a lot of stuff, and God bless her for putting up with me, because if she kicked my ass, let me tell you. She's a no bullshit, hardcore, just straight at you kind of person. And I would try to wiggle around doing the things I was supposed to do because, I knew better.
Right.
The ego and all that, those thoughts, like, I don't want to look like a man. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. Like all that sabotaging behavior. And she put up with all of that and kicked my ass so hard. And then eventually I had to submit. I had to just do the thing that was working. I had to put my idiotic ego down that I knew better. I had to swallow my pride to be a beginner. I had to take constructive and sometimes very violent criticism because I just wasn't cooperating, right? And I had to be really kind of beaten up a little bit in order to be helped. And so that's how I came to be.
For me, I have a background in CrossFit, and I know for me, and then even just seeing other women too, did you hit this point where I always love seeing women getting here? They're more concerned about their body and what they look like, and I want to lose weight, and I don't want to look bulky and all this stuff. And then they started lifting weights, and then they realized like I'm kind of strong. Like this like confidence comes, like I lifted 100 pounds, you know, like, or I lifted my body weight or whatever. These like milestones come and just like this, I don't know. I really enjoy that personally. And I loved seeing other women kind of hit that too of like, yeah, I'm fucking strong. Like this is fun, right?
Exactly, exactly. So some of the things that I hated about my body growing up were I used to call them my thunder thighs because I
Oh
have
gosh.
really thick quads.
Oh,
And I used to absolutely be ashamed of the fact that I had really muscular legs. And then the other thing I was super concerned about was having, bigger shoulders and bigger traps and my
right.
big butt, right? So I had a big butt, big thighs, and I could very easily develop the traps from, lifting weights improperly, most likely. And so when I started this whole journey, I was like, my whole perspective did a 180. I
Mhm.
was like, no, no, I want the big quads. I want the big glutes. And I
Right.
want to have delts and shoulders and abs. I don't want to look like a man. I will never look like a man because it's impossible. I just don't have that physique, right? But I want to look as good as I can look. And I'm not ashamed of my muscles and my strength and my bigger than usual thighs. Because if you grew up in the 90s, you know the whole like Kate Moss look. In order to be a
Yeah.
model, you had to, be very, very,
Thin.
very, yeah. So now I love it. I'm like, yeah, bring it on.
Right, right. I know that there's so much more I would say in one, you were talking about like your daughter and just the social media now, but at the same time I feel like there's a little bit more body positivity now of like fuller figure, whereas right, same. I remember growing I had a like a roommate in college that had done some modeling and yeah, she looks like if a strong wind blew, it'd knock her over, right? She was just so thin. And yeah, just that like thankfully, I think what's, culturally beautiful, I think has shifted some too, which I think helps with body positivity. So,
Yeah. I mean, not to say that someone who's really thin is not beautiful. They're very, very beautiful as well. I think all bodies are beautiful. And I think we should all embrace and accept the body that we're in. And
right.
this for me, like if I had the super thin body, I'd probably be asking for, a thicker butt or a bigger butt or thicker thighs. I mean, who
Yeah.
knows, right? So we're always looking to have the thing
Mhm.
that we don't. And,
Mhm.
like for me, I'm 5'3". I always wanted to be 5'9". My daughter is 5'9". She wants to be 5'3". Like,
Right.
it's always something else. And so
Mhm.
my message to everybody is that, just because I love my thighs and a big butt and this and that, that doesn't mean that that's what you need to be coveting. Because if your body is a different type, right, that's beautiful as well. It's about accepting the body that you're in and working towards that particular love and acceptance so you're not hating yourself 24/7.
Right. Yeah, such a good point. Such a good point. So tell me a little about just how, if people are hearing this, how do you work with people now? You also have a podcast, you have some retreats I saw on your website. Tell us all the things.
Absolutely. So I have dived into this lifestyle 100%.
Mhm.
I do in-person retreats at Thor, Thor. It's thehouseofrose.com. They run between March and October. And this is our third year of running retreats. So the retreats are yoga, hiking, spa treatments, photo shoots, all kinds of things that I love. Right. So, and a lot of women really enjoy spending time with other women that are going through the same types of things uh, that I would be going or you would be going at this age. Pampering ourselves, eating really good food that is nutritious and is going to help us with our energy and our activity level And so, yeah, so it's all about that. So we do those retreats March through October. This year is almost halfway fully sold out. A few spots are still left, but yeah, so that's one thing. And then the other way is through monthly coaching. So if there's anyone who is curious about the particular lifestyle and wants to use my example of everything I know not to do so they don't do those things, I'm there for it.
Love that. Love that. And so is that through are the retreats just that what would be the best way for them to get in contact with you if they're interested in the coaching?
Oh, absolutely. Just send me an email at Terry, Terry, at thehouseofrose.com. So it's THE House of OF Rose, ROSE.com.
Got it. Awesome. And then I looked at your it looks like the link on your Instagram. There's some other like links to the retreats, to your Facebook, your podcast, all of that. Wonderful.
Yes.
Awesome. Tori.
Yeah, we have a free Facebook group as well with women that are in this lifestyle that are working towards reverse aging and having a better future no matter what their age. So if anybody's curious or wants to kind of experience what that looks like, you can join us on Facebook. It's a free group. It's Thor, THOR Wellness.
Awesome. So, and that's maybe a great place to kind of end on. If somebody, are there like maybe 3 or so like key strategies, or like if you're, I mean, somebody's going to listen to this and be like, okay, like I've got to turn things around. Like what's something that they could do, just some changes they could start making now? Jump in your Facebook group, obviously, and learn from you there, but just some key takeaways that can help them start making some changes in their body and seeing results like you have.
Yes. So first thing, the most important thing, get your mind straight. And what that means is think about all the reasons why your mind is going to try and stop you from making these changes in advance. Write them down, make a list, all the reasons why this is such a terrible idea, and keep that in front of you. Because in the beginning, when you first start out, there's a lot of motivation, right? There's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of spark. Like you're like, yeah, I've got this. I'm going to do X, Y, Z. You get inspired and it drives you to a certain place in the process. And then everyone, and I mean everyone, hits a point where that list is going to start showing up while you're on this journey. And because you wrote these down beforehand, now you're going to be like, oh, okay, I see. So one of the boogeymen is showing up in this video game, right? So I got to figure out how to get around these things rather than let them dictate my character in this movie that I'm in this game that I'm playing, right? I got to recognize when the resistance is coming in, because a lot of times it will not appear as an enemy. It appears as your friend, right? So all the reasons why I'm tired. Oh, I'm going on vacation. I deserve this break. I worked so hard. I could have a drink every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Or I was perfect with my food Monday through Thursday. I'm just going to go to Bucketville Friday to Sunday, like all these things sound like a great idea, right? In the moment, but they're obstacles. So get your mind straight, like really sit down and say, let's make a deal here. This is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to do it no matter what. This is going to happen. And I'm going to figure it out day by day as things come up. So each day you get up and you just figure out that day. What happens in that day? You're going to walk. You're going to lift some weights. You're going to maybe do 10, 15 minutes of cardio. You're going to eat 5 meals that are protein first type of meals, right? And you're going to maybe try and cut out alcohol, because that's not your friend in perimenopause or menopause. Under any circumstances, that is not your friend. It's not healthy to have 1 glass of wine, right? That's all nonsense that we're told in the media that is just there to sell more wine. So all of these things, we'll just address them on a day-by-day basis rather than looking at it as, my gosh, I have to lose 80 pounds, right? And that's how the battle is won. It's day by day, step by step, boogeyman by boogeyman. As they come up, you tackle them and you keep going every single day. One thing you don't ever want to do, if you're serious about it, is quit on yourself, right? That's a guarantee to not achieve what you're setting out to achieve.
Yeah, I love that. Starting with the mindset, right? What are all the things that are going to sabotage you, and starting out with that right away rather than letting them come up and get you. That's such a great strategy. I love that. So, well, this has been awesome, Terry. Thank you so much. You mentioned your links in the episode, but we'll put the link to your website, the House of Rose, your Instagram, as well as your podcast, where they can go hear more of you and jump in that Facebook group for some more support too. Thank you so
See
much,
you guys
Terry.
there. Thank you, Lori. It was great talking to you. Thank you so much. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week.